welcome back to Epic Rap Battles of History. Respawn Archives, episode 7. This is your host on the Respawn Archives, Patrick Turner, and your co-host, Will. I'm definitely not drugged up, and he's definitely not an alcoholic. Sorry, I was trying to catch a fly.
I was about to say, what are you fighting, your demons?
No, not the nipple. Anyways, we're back for episode 7. We talked about some cryptics last week, and we also talked about... It was one other thing we talked about. Why am I'm having the weirdest brain fart right now.
Cryptids in Chernobyl and food dye.
Food dye, yes. The Colt 45 red food dye. And,
I think that's all we did last week.
anyways, we're here to talk about another cryptid in a little bit of space this week, because you guys enjoyed the cryptids so much last week.
Do they know? I've been losing my mind for the past hour and a half.
That's some of the funniest shit you've... I'm crazy. I've been losing my mind.
Crazy? I was crazy once. They locked me in a room. A rubber room. A rubber room with rats. The rats make me crazy. Crazy? Okay, I'm not doing it. I just want to get one going.
What's that episode from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia? Where he's like, have you been drinking paint again? And he's like dancing around a leprechaun. The leprechaun's
I haven't watched that show.
Well, you may be a man, or you may be a leprechaun, but only one thing's for sure. You're in the wrong basement.
No.
I'm gonna see if you bleed green.
No.
Whoa, Charlie,
Whoa, hey,
What the hell is...
what are you doing? What does it look like I'm doing?
It looks like you've tied a little person to a chair and you're gonna torture him.
No, I've tied a leprechaun to a chair, and yeah, I was gonna cut him to pieces.
Charlie, you been drinking straight paint?
Yeah.
You had to watch that show?
No, I haven't. I haven't seen any of it. My mom watched it when I was younger, but I've
It's-
not watched any of it.
It's kind of like The Office. It's random humor, which is kind of awkward, but it's funny
I mean,
as hell.
I liked The Office and Parks and Rec, which is similar to The Office.
It's hilarious. Oh, also, what's the other one? Parks and Rec, and then there's another one. It's like Parks and Rec.
I know there's Parks and Rec and The Office and Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Arrested Development?
Yes. Yes, correct.
I haven't watched that either.
It's
I
like
think I
Parks
watched like a couple episodes.
and Rec, and kind of like The Office. It's hilarious as well. There's some
I
funny...
need to watch
It's
that
just
then.
older. It's cryptic we want to talk about. We have a second one if we have time for it. I don't know if we will. This is going to be a little bit shorter of an episode. But our first one is
Dyatlov Pass.
Dyatlov Pass. It's
Dyat-
Russian.
Dyatlov.
Dyatlov.
Yes.
Yes, there's Dyatlov. KGB, if you're watching us right now, we are
I
comedians.
doubt we're even on the radar.
What, am I not good enough for you, KGB, huh? You want none of
think
this
so.
brown sugar, girl, huh?
You are like Casper the Ghost.
Anyways, why do I want to say dat? It's not dat.
Dyat.
It's
Dyat.
Gat.
Dyatlov.
Gatlov. Gatlov the Gatling gun.
Not Gyat. Dyat.
Do you want to bust down the overview what Dyatlov Pass is as a relic of...
Oh, it's not necessarily like folklore. It's like it's an actual incident.
And that's what makes it so special.
Basically,
That's what causes me to catch my eye to it.
basically there was an event where 9 Soviet ski hikers died in the northern part of the Ural Mountains ridge in the Russian Soviet Union on either February 1st or 2nd in 1959.
What ages were these fine gentlemen and women?
They were all in their like early 20s, anywhere from 20 to 24, and then one 38-year-old.
Yes, and I believe the woman and one of the men had a relationship prior to this expedition. I don't know if I want to go into detail on
I
that.
have
That's something I
no
noticed.
clue about that, but basically it was a hike of the highest difficulty at the time. They established camp on one of the eastern slopes of. I'm not even gonna try and pronounce that mountain's name. But overnight, group cut their way out of their tents by knives and fled the campsite, inadequately dressed for the heavy
Might
snowfall,
I add,
strong winds.
out the backside of the tent they did so. This was in the middle of the
Yeah,
night. And what was the temperature? Did it say anything about temperatures? It was very cold. They're in the
negative
mountains.
negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So negative 40 Celsius or negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit. It's the same thing there.
Frostbite within not even minutes, within seconds. You get frostbite with open fingertips, earlobes, noses, any extremity of not a
Yeah.
high rate of blood flow.
Heavy snowfall, strong winds, extreme cold. The bodies were discovered, and an investigation by Soviet authorities deemed that 6 of them died from hypothermia, while the other 3 had been killed by physical trauma. 1 had major skull damage, 2 had severe chest trauma, and another had a small crack in his skull, but was later ruled out as he just died to hypothermia. 4 of the bodies were found in May of 1959, so months
Um,
later, and 3 of them had damaged soft tissue, 1 to the head and face. 2 bodies had missing eyes, 1 had a missing tongue, and 1 had a missing eyebrows.
I mean, I'm kind of into like sucking toes during sex, but that's a little bit past my edge of what I'm
That's
into.
crazy.
That's a little weird. Oh, we forgot to mention one of the hikers. You said there was a total of 10 or 9.
There was 9 of them. 3. Nah, there was 10.
Yes, the one got sick. He got the flu.
Yeah.
A village lower down at base camp, and he said, "Hey, I'm gonna stick back here and rest it out."
Yeah, so
What a
he
pussy.
they began the trek on January 27th, and on January 28th he got sick due to several different health issues, uh, a congenital heart defect, and rheumatism.
That's pretty serious. That's more than just getting the flu.
And he
That
turned back because of knee and joint pain and made him unable to continue.
interesting. So
So
he
the
was
remaining
really
9 continued. Yeah, he had issues. He
uh
shouldn't have been there to begin with.
yeah, I don't know why he did it say prior to the expedition he had issues, or is that just something he developed within the first day or two?
Well, I'm assuming obviously the congenital heart defect and the rheumatism were beforehand, and then he turned back because of knee and joint pain. So he went on it knowing he had those conditions, and then turned back due to the joint and knee pain, making him unable to hike. Um, There was diaries and cameras found at their last campsite that made it possible to track the group's route up to the day preceding the incident on January 31st. So 4 days after they began, the group arrived at the edge of the highland area and began to prepare for the climb. uh, in the wooded valley, they cached surplus food and equipment that would be used for the trip back. The next day, the hikers started to move through the pass. Everything was going as planned. They made camp for the next night on the opposite side, but because of worsening weather conditions, snowstorms, and decreasing visibility, they lost their direction and deviated west to the top of the mountain. When they realized their mistake, the group decided to set up camp on the slope of the mountain rather than move almost a mile downhill to a forested area that would have offered some shelter from the weather. And it was speculated that the leader of the expedition, he didn't want to. He didn't want to. The guy who had left, Yuri Yudin, speculated that the group didn't want to lose the altitude that they had gained, or they decided to practice camping on the side of the mountain slope. February 26th.
And that was the leader that made that call decision to camp there, right?
I believe so. It was Igor Dyatlov.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing's based around Dyatlov, his name. So.
And they named it Dyatlov Pass. February 26th, searchers found the group's abandoned and badly damaged tents on the mountain. Campsite baffled the search party. The student who found the tent said the tent was torn in half and covered in snow. It was empty, and all the group's belongings and shoes had been left behind. Investigators said the tent had been opened from the inside. 9 sets of footprints left by the people only wearing socks, a single shoe, or even barefoot could be found leading to the edge of the nearby wood on the opposite side of the pass, almost a mile northeast. And after 1,600 feet, the tracks were covered in snow, and at the forest edge under a Serbian pine, the searchers found visible remains of a small fire. There were 2 bodies found, shoeless and dressed only in underwear, and the branches on the tree were broken up to 5 meters high that one of the hikers had climbed to look for something. Between the pine and the camp, the searchers found 3 more corpses of people who died in poses.
Interrupt you. 5 meters is 16 foot for U.S. citizens. Just to give you an idea. For people who don't know, 16 foot. You know, average human's about 6, maybe.
I mean, you just do
6.5 foot tall. You know, average male.
You do like 5 times 3, because isn't a meter's 3 feet, right?
If
a meter's 3 feet, then it's
roughly.
8. Well, then yeah, basically 18 feet.
Google just said 16.4, so about just underneath 16.5 foot, which is tall. I mean, the average male is like 6'5", right?
No, the average male is like 5'9", 5'10".
Right. Okay.
No, yeah, the average male is 5'9", 5'10". Yeah, 5'9".
We'll call it 6 foot. We'll call it a day there.
Nope, and that is 3 inches off. No, it's 5'9". But anyways,
potato. You know what I mean? This 6 foot, 5'10", whatever. You know.
The 2 other bodies. Oh no, wait. Oh yeah, they found the 3 other corpses who died in poses suggesting they were attempting to return to the tent. They were each found at distances of 980, 1,570, and 2,070 feet from the tree.
That's quite far, isn't it? I mean, that's... How far is that from camp, though, too? The tree wasn't next to camp, either.
Well, they were trying to go, like, almost a mile northeast of the path, and the tracks got about 1,600 feet. Before they were covered in snow. I don't know how far. It doesn't say how far they were from the camp. Finding the remaining 4 travelers took more than 2 months, and they were finally found on May 4th under 13 feet of snow in a ravine 246 feet further into the woods from the pine tree. That makes me think of...
Avalanche or something?
Well, no. If they were in a ravine, Like that makes me think of like the two with major chest injuries and a fractured skull.
Were picked up and thrown by a Yeti from the Russian mountains.
Oh my goodness. 3 of the 4 were dressed better than the others, and there were signs of some clothing of those who had died first had been removed for use by others. Immediately after the first 5 bodies were found, medical examination found no injuries that might have led to their death, and it was concluded that they all died to hypothermia. One of them had a small crack in his skull, but was found not to be a fatal wound. Examination of the other 4 bodies found in May shifted the narrative. 3 of the hikers had fatal injuries. One had major skull damage, and 2 others had major chest fractures. And according to one of the one of the doctors who was examining, the force required to cause such damage would be comparable to that of a car crash. And they had no external wounds associated with the bone fractures, as if they were subjected to a high level of pressure. So they are all found at the bottom of a creek in a running stream of water, soft tissue damage to their face and head. One of them had her tongue and eyes and part of the lips missing, as well as facial tissue and a fragment of skull bone. Another had his eyeballs missing, and another had his eyebrows missing. And after the forensic expert performing the post-mortem examination judged that these injuries happened post-mortem because of the location of the bodies in the streams. But that's kind of all of it wrapped into a whole. 6 of the group members died of hypothermia, and 3 had fatal injuries. No indication of other people nearby on the mountain apart from the 9 travelers. Tent ripped open from the inside. The victims died 6 to 8 hours after their last meal. Traces from camp showed that all group members left the campsite of their own accord on foot. Some levels of radiation were found on one victim's clothing, and to dispel the theory of an attack by indigenous Mansi people, the forensic expert stated that the fatal injury of the 3 bodies could have not been caused by a human because the force of the blows had been too strong and no soft tissue had been damaged. Released documents contain no information about the condition of the hikers' internal organs. Official conclusion that the group members had died from a compelling natural force. The inquest officially ceased in May 1959 as a result of the absence of a guilty party, and the files were sent to a secret archive. And in 1997, they revealed the negatives from one of the hikers' cameras that were kept in a private archive for one of the investigators. The film material was donated to one of the daughters of the Dyatlov Foundation, and the diaries of the hiking party fell into the Russians' public domain in 2009, and in 2019, Russian authorities reopened the investigation to the incident, although 3 possible explanations were being considered from them of an avalanche, a slab avalanche, or a hurricane, and the possibility of murder from another person was discounted. So that's kind of everything. That's like the whole thing wrapped up.
Now, that's the story, but there's a lot of on leading edges to that. I feel like, a lot of things that just don't add up there that are kind of mysterious. That
Well, what's
the deaths of certain
your
ones.
take on it?
What'd you say?
What's your take on it then? Like what?
I think I think it very closely represents how somebody of the Illuminati would kill 3 people and leave 6 other people to die in hyperthermic weather of the Russian
Illuminati?
mountains.
Where you getting Illuminati from?
I don't know. I'll go.
I feel like
Conspiracy nights. I don't.
for me, the 3 people who had the fatal injuries because they were in a ravine and farther away, I feel like may have fallen, but it doesn't say how deep the ravine was. Is the only issue that I'm having because they were under 13 feet of snow, 246 feet further into the woods from the pine tree, but it doesn't say how deep that ravine was. But also, if it was deep enough, I could see the chest injuries, like the broken bones and stuff in the chest, being due to the fall because of low visibility, and same thing with the fractured skull. But he said the amount of force that would have need to have been exerted would have been like a car crash, which is a lot. Which makes me think it would have to be a pretty big fall, and especially considering there would be snow on the ground too.
Um, let me
That's what's the only thing not adding up for me.
something send something to you. I'm looking at this website. It's a huge archive. Archive. Um, of Daytova's Pass of all the diary entries because everybody had a diary and a whole bunch of different photos because they're taking photos on the trip, and stuff like that. And it's kind of interesting what they have here. Wait, what was the last thing you said? The last sentence?
Just with the injuries that they had, it made me think that they could have fallen into a ravine, but I don't know how deep the ravine is. And it says they were covered in 13 feet of snow, so I also don't know how much snow was on the ground.
They
But
said
if they fell
below
into the ravine,
30 foot of snow or something like that, didn't they?
they were in like they were covered in 13 feet of snow.
Yeah, that's a lot of weight, But wait, here's the thing. What drove them to start this whole thing in a general facility? They're all camping, they're all sleeping in a tent. Yeah, there's a little bit of a snowstorm going on. I don't know how bad of a blizzard or what it is. And then just mysteriously, everybody wakes up in the middle of the night and cuts a hole for the back of the tent and runs down, and 3 people fall into a ravine and get hurt. But even if you were to fall off the ravine and get hurt, yeah, you might have some broken bones and a crushed body a little bit, maybe depending on how far you fell and how much snow landed on you. But getting your eyeballs plucked out and your tongue cut and your eyebrows and getting mutilated like that's some Marilyn Manson shit or whatever.
Huh. So I don't think the ravine was actually that deep.
That does not help our.
No, I. That's the thing is the ravine wasn't that deep, and
Yeah, and if it was super deep, then it'd be more believable where the impact on that.
hmm, I don't know. It's definitely weird, but if they were covered in 13 feet of snow, I could see avalanche being a. I don't know how hurricane could be a possibility. I mean, it could be, but a hurricane in the middle of Russia, it just doesn't seem plausible because normally those happen near the coast. Like they happen on the east coast or the south of Florida and the U.S., or they happen over near like the Philippines and Japan and China where there are
Tsunami
typhoons
and
over
stuff.
there. Yeah. So I don't think hurricane could be a thing. So I could see avalanche, like a really crazy avalanche rolled through because they were under 13 feet of snow. So if a crazy avalanche rolled through and crushed their bones, I could see it, but that still doesn't explain a fractured skull and missing eyes unless
Tongue and stuff
some
like that.
type of
Yeah.
unless some type of animal got to, and the eyebrows, unless some type of animal got to him, but then it doesn't explain why wasn't the rest of the body, picked
Also,
apart.
it's there wasn't I read somewhere there wasn't significant proof to prove that there was an avalanche because you would have other areas of the mountain covered in snow and it didn't show that like. And it doesn't explain why the hell they ran out the back of the tent cutting a hole in it. You know, that's kind of bizarre as hell too. With that
Yeah.
said, there's also been theories that maybe they had a heater inside the tent and it caught the tent on fire and they ran out the back. And then they got hypothermia because their clothes and everything burned up. There is that theory I've heard too. Then there's obviously the other obvious theory that there's some type of snow yeti. That was weird.
I don't
Snow yeti or something like that. Up there, some type of abominable snowman.
I don't know. I just I don't think it's just really weird because none of it is like it's none of it is extremely explainable or like you, there's no way to explain it other than animals. But then if it's animals, why wasn't the rest of the body picked apart? And then I I don't know about a snow yeti. I mean, I don't really believe in like Bigfoot or anything. It's cool to think about.
You know, you're the type of guy that cuts the frosting off the top of the fucking cake for his birthday, aren't you?
No, because I get ice cream cakes.
I haven't had an ice cream cake in years, I can be honest.
I have one every single year.
What flavor? What kind of cake are we talking?
Oreo with vanilla. You do a Oreo crust at the bottom, and then vanilla in the middle, and then another Oreo crust, and then the
I
ice.
got you.
It's chef's kiss.
You get Oreos on top of it, like kind of shoved in, kind of, and then like
Yup.
cookie crumble sprinkle.
Yep.
Do you like
Exactly.
eat it right away when it's frosted cold, like an ice cube, or do you let it sit out and like kind of
Nah,
become natural temperature a
well,
little bit?
I have to. They get it and then they bring it, and then obviously I'm gonna eat it as soon as I can. But they keep it in the freezer for for the meal or whatever, and then we just eat after. So it's still like pretty good. I don't let it get like super soft, but I don't want to be like chewing on ice cubes.
Trying to get down to the bottom of this and try to figure out what actually happened because nothing's adding up here. We got people that are dying of hypothermia, people are being mutilated. We don't know if it's a mountain avalanche. We don't know if something mysteriously came out of the bushes and threw them. People are saying maybe the government was doing testing there and they got a little too close and killed them. I don't know why they would kill them that way. It'd be better to shoot them at that point and then bury them, but there was also the theory of a tent fire, of maybe there was a small stove. Remember, this is 1955, 59, folks. You're burning firewood, you have an exhaust pipe out the top of the tent. Very easily, something, a spark or something like that, or something could have got hot and burnt, and then, But the tent, if you look in the photos, doesn't really look like it had a fire. It just looks like somebody stomped on the tent, Or maybe an avalanche came over and took it out, so...
I have no clue. Oh goodness. I haven't read anything about a tent fire in what I've looked at.
The biggest thing that grabbed my attention about this story back in the day and why I wanted to review it today was the diaries and the journals, especially of that one girl and what she wrote. And people say I'm crazy, and people say I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm not mad. I knew I was right the whole time, okay? I'm not fucking crazy. You're crazy, okay?
You sure about that?
I don't know. My therapist says I need to spend more time around other people and less time alone talking to myself in the mirror. But what does she know?
That's for another day. I mean, what does she know? She's only getting paid 125 a session. It's not like she has a degree in it or something.
Um, but one of the posts in the diary or the journal, we'll call it, the last post she
Wrote.
wrote was, "We know where the snowman lives," and I want to where the snowman lives, and then it ends there, and I want to find that photo of that journal where she written down, because there is a photo of that, and I think in these archives here I'm looking for it should be there. Also, I'm curious to see what the other guys of the group wrote down, what they were going through, and what they were experiencing that particular night. What night was that? Did they give a date of the night the incident happened? It was in January or is it February? It was one there. That's the other bizarre thing. Why would you go hiking for the mountains in the winter months? The harshest time of the year is the winter months for the mountains, right? I mean, you're
Oh yeah.
blizzards, avalanches. I mean, they could all happen all year long, but it's more likely to happen in January from March, the winter months of the year.
Yeah, the last entry was we know the snowmen are real.
Where'd you get that? I want to see that.
I'm trying to find a picture of it. I mean, obviously, it's not going to be in English, though.
That's the bad thing about this whole cryptic is it's Russian. It's all Russian.
It's all in Russian.
What's up? What'd you find?
I'm just trying to find pictures from. I'm just trying to find photos from it.
Okay,
There's a
so
lot of photos.
it says at the end of this archive, it says, "What happened on the night of February 1st, 1959, so that was the date, is haunting us till this day. We have our own theory on how the tragedy went down, published 1079, The Overwhelming Force of Dyatlov Pass." I should look at that.
Apparently, there was a Russian and Swedish expedition of the same mountain done in January and February of 2019.
And did they come across anything on their journey? Any?
I have no clue. Obviously, we know Yuri Yudin was the sole survivor because he left early and he helped identify the belongings of the victims, and he lived until 2013, believing a compelling force or human intervention rather than natural causes caused the deaths. It was two Swedish adventurers. Oh, they survived. It was only two people who survived?
On the 2019 or the 1959 incident?
2019.
Wait, what happened there? I didn't know they had another issue.
I don't know. I'm trying to read more into it. It just says there's five people in this picture. Swedish adventurers traveled to the pass for the 60th anniversary of the Dyatlov Pass incident. Agreed to take people on an exclusive tour of the infamous Death Mountain. One of them had his theory about what happened on the pass, and the writer says it sounds plausible, and for the first time they heard the theory that could explain everything, including the photos from Igor Dyatlov's camera and the strange scrawled message, "From now on we know that the snowmen exist."
Repeat that one more time.
So this is like I don't know who wrote this. J.H. Moncrief, award-winning mystery and suspense. He wrote about this in 2019 about two Swedish adventurers who went
She.
to Dyatlov. Huh?
J.H. Moncrief's a woman.
I didn't know that.
Oh, you're good.
Uh,
We're not
went
sexist
to
around here.
went to Dyatlov Pass for the 60th anniversary, and she got it was Andres Lilhegren, and Richard Holmgren. And Holmgren had his theory about what happened, and Moncrief believed it sounded plausible and heard the theory, and it thought it could explain everything except the photo from Igor Dyatlov's camera and the message from now on, we know that snowmen exist.
Wait, there's a photo from '59 showing that we know where the snowman lives.
Mm-mm.
Or is that from her book?
I'm still reading through. This is from the article. Here, let me. The pass is rather undramatic as long as the winds are under control. The lower parts of the pass are beautiful when the sun is glistening across frozen treetops. It can also be a death trap. Certain changes in weather would turn a normal skiing tour into hell itself. Temperatures in late January are also hard to forget experiences. So coming from
Okay, so I figured out where that statement came from here. I think I could be wrong. The phrase "we know that the snowman exists" comes from a satirical, whatever you want to say,
satirical.
Evening Orton's newspaper created by the Davon Group in February 1st, 1959, the night they died. The entry reads, "We know where the snowman exists. They can be found in northern Ural next to Mount Orton."
Being suggested is katabatic winds.
I think the snowman source I have here is more just a thing they had on a
It's
satirical
like
paper.
a theory or something like that. I don't
Well,
know. I can't find anything that would be like concrete for it, which is why it makes me to believe it's just like some freak accident.
The context here
Still
it
crazy.
says the source. Excuse me one second. Anyways, from what I have here, I'll just read off real quick. It says, key details about the snowman entry. Source: the phrase is often quoted from the group's final diary entry or wall newspaper, frequently named Evening Orton Number 1. The context is a strict satirical paper meant to entertain the hikers, not a serious scientific report. However, the mention of snowman, similar to the Russians' Menk, was fueled according to many researchers on Facebook blah 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 theories about the encounter. Location: the hikers were in Mount Norton, called Dead Mountain or Peak 1079. That's where the movie got the name from, in the northern Urals of the mountain. Theory: the entry is frequently cited in the context of the Yeti, Menk, a local mythical creature the indigenous Mensen encountered through the often cause remains unknown. Now, there's another, on the documentary, there's another thing Satan, to the hiker that got left behind because he was sick and ill. He waited at that village down below. The villagers there told them not to go up there, not to go in there because it's dangerous. But I need to figure out a journal or some type of entry that backs that statement up. But I have heard that the villagers of that village told them not to go up there because it's dangerous. I'm not saying the whole snowman abominable thing is true anymore. I can't take that and be like, yeah, that's what happened, because obviously here it's a thing out of a newspaper. But I see where the villagers are coming from. I see how that plays in there. It'd be cool to say we have actual evidence of some type of abominable snowman attacking people in this theory or whatever, this mystery. But I think more likely what happened is...
I'm just guessing like an avalanche crushed them.
Yeah, but
That'd be my best guess.
why did they cut the tent and run out the back in the middle of the night?
Well, the reason
they
they were
separated?
saying was the katabatic winds. It's when wind is coming down off of the slope and it's extremely violent. So even if you're in a tent, like, you're not going to be safe from that. It's winds coming directly off of the slope of the mountain and blowing so violently that it would destroy the tent. So maybe they just had to get out to try and find some other type of shelter. Because there was an incident in Sweden that happened in 1978 due to katabatic winds.
How did that incident go? What happened there?
Let me see. In February 1978, a severe unexpected katabatic windstorm hit a Swedish-Russian expedition in the Jämtland Mountains, causing a tragedy known as the humorous accident. February 24th, 1978, 8 experienced Swedish hikers died from extreme cold and injuries. A tragedy sometimes linked to mountaineering analysis to sudden dense gravity-driven winds similar to those explored on other mysterious hiking deaths. Party was caught in a freak -4 degrees Fahrenheit storm with wind tearing through their camp and destroying their equipment. And the tragedy is attributed to a sudden katabatic wind, a cold, dense wind that flows down a slope due to gravity, which brought intense freezing conditions. One person survived by keeping moving despite suffering extreme frostbite to his hands and feet. And there's a memorial cross in the mountains commemorating the 8 hikers who died. So that's like one of the main theories behind this, the Dyatlov Pass incident, is katabatic winds. Because they were right on the mountain slope because the storm hit during their ascent. And they were trying to get to the woods for cover. But that was almost a mile away.
We know they were camping. It was late at night. There was a storm coming through. A good chance an avalanche happened right after these winds happened. And not to get off the subject here, but I researched Russian menk, and the meaning of that, Google says, is the animal described by the Manson. These are the village people down below. They call it the forest giant, which is an atomic feature similar to the Yeti. Said to live in the area of Kayak Masa, Russia, which is that mountain pass they were going through. So I guess that's where that theory. Maybe that might just be a mythical creature that village made up to keep people out of their mountain range, but
yeah, like one of those old like wives' tales or whatever. You know.
Exactly. Hey, don't go up there. There's a Yeti. But it still doesn't describe. Okay, maybe their bodies were crushed by snow. Maybe they fell into a ravine. We don't know how deep that ravine is. We don't know. The hypothermia is believable, and the crushed body is somewhat believable, kinda. The mutilation of the 2 or 3 guys that got mutilated, that I don't know where to begin there. I don't know.
I couldn't even.
That's just really weird because it's not like they're near a city. They're out in the middle of nowhere in these mountains. You know what I mean?
And there was no other signs of any humans.
There shouldn't be.
I have no clue. I can't even think of anything more that we could go over for it. I think we've just kind of gone over everything. I can't think of any other theory that could make this make sense in any way.
Only thing I can think of is between the time rescue teams and researchers showed up there, because you got to keep in mind this is 1959, right before the 60s. Last year, the 50s. Technology wasn't that great to get search and rescue to where they were in the middle of nowhere. You know, whether it's flying a helicopter or some type of vehicle. The only thing I can think of is between the time of the incident happening and search and rescue showing up, is that either some type of cannibalism happened or some type of wildlife got a hold of their bodies. But
But it's just the eyes, a part of the lip, and then
tongue,
eyebrows and tongue.
yeah, so it's facial features. Did they say anything about fingers or toes or extremities being chewed off, or ripped off, or cut off, or
Nothing
anything like
else.
that? Really? Okay. So, but they were covered in snow. They were covered in 13 feet of snow, right? All the
Well, that could
victims.
have been after the fact because they found them months later. Because this incident supposedly happened around February 1st or 2nd. They weren't found until May 4th.
Okay, and May 4th.
So like 3 months later.
So if we're looking at the beginning of February, you're talking, uh, 3 months. They were left there to rot.
Yeah. Well,
So-
they were mainly preserved due to cold temperatures and snow, so it was like a freezer.
I just can't imagine I can imagine an animal coming by in those 3 months. And
But just the eyes, just the tongue, just the part of the lips, and then eyebrows.
what if their head was sticking out of the snow and the rest of their body was buried, or was it their whole
They could
body
have
buried?
chewed. They could have chewed on their face, the whole face. If it was an animal eating, it would have been more than just, especially the eyes. Like you would have to, like dig an eye out.
Yeah, that's true.
It just doesn't make any sense all around, and there's no way I can make sense of how or what it would be. It's just weird all around, and that's why it's still,
Did the not Russian, Swedish and you said French hikers of 2019 went back there?
Yeah, it was 2 Swedish explorers that went back there.
What did they find? Did they find anything? Did they have any trouble?
They didn't have any issues.
I thought you said they had hypothermia
I don't think it
issues
was
or wind
two
issues or
survivors.
something.
I think it was they were going there and they brought extra people. I think they just because it was like an article, they worded it a certain way to get clicks.
Well, that is Dyatova's Pass. We are stumped on the mutilation of the bodies. We kind of have a good idea what happened to the other people that died of frost or
It was hypothermia.
impact of the lungs and shit like that. It's probably there's some type of avalanche, and I don't know. Maybe I don't think. As far as my theory on cannibalism, and that note too, if let's say me and you go out to the forest. Obviously, I would eat you because you're smaller.
But you're not. You gotta catch me first, bud.
he's like a little a little Irish cold guy with a bucket of gold.
I'm not a leprechaun.
He's like a little leprechaun. Actually, I'd probably be more better to eat because I got more fat you can cook and seasoning. I don't know. Anyways, but like if you're gonna eat me or if I was gonna eat you, I would not eat your eyes or your tongue. I mean, some people eat tongue, like pig tongue, but like
Well, it's like
I would
cow
go-
tongue or whatever. But it's there's a lot more meat elsewhere.
Yeah,
besides
that's what I'm
little
thinking.
bitty eyes and a tongue.
if they were gonna eat each other to feed and stay alive, because when you eat, you have calories, you have heat. And let's say
Yeah.
half of them survived, the other half fucking died. I don't know who died first and who survived, but if that was the case, I would be going for like not face
The arm,
extremities,
the
but I'd be
leg, the thigh. Push to talk.
something has some sorry damn it I would be going like thigh like you said or stomach maybe or I don't know just underneath the arm or something like that something you can cut off
Got
and-
some meat on it.
yeah some meat and season and a little bit of barbecue sauce on there a little marinade so gross. So I don't think cannibalism was necessarily context a clue.
Nope.
What do you overall think happened? I said I think there was some type of avalanche or some type of cannibalic winds. What do you overall think happened if you had to take a guess?
I would say probably about the same thing with them saying, oh yeah, it's probably about the of a car crash to crush their bones the way it did, I would probably have to say they would. That's what they said. With the amount of pressure that would have been put on their chest, they said it was about the same pressure that you would experience in a car crash, which is what makes me think avalanche. So you're under a ton of snow that just packs down on itself and it crushes your bones. That makes me think about that. Fractured skull, I still don't know, but I'm thinking the catabolic winds happened. They had to flee to go down to the forest to get some type of shelter, and an avalanche happened. I don't think there was any type of yeti or cannibalism or anything like that, or even the indigenous people there, the Manas people or whatever it is, caused anything. I think it was just a crazy freak accident at the end of the day that's kind of unexplainable in the end of it all.
Except for the mutilation of the bodies.
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
know. Maybe
That's
the village people came
that's
up.
the unexplainable part.
Yeah, like the village people came up and did some weird shit. But how would you find them after an avalanche or something like that? Just what about the other thing that bothers me is they woke up in the middle of the night and tore a hole in the back of the tent and ran out the back. I mean, you can probably hear an avalanche coming, but can you move that fast? I would think they would all be crushed inside the tent if there was an avalanche, you know?
Well, that's the thing is that avalanche happened after the catabolic winds.
Oh, so you think they would have been awake, moving around already by then?
Yeah, because they were seeking shelter from the catabolic winds that would have destroyed their camp otherwise. And then they got out, and then that's my theory on it.
Well, my headset's dying. That's Dyatlov Pass. If you guys have comments or theories of your own, please put it down in the comments section below. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not already. Don't forget to like if you haven't done that already. And like I said, leave a comment. We're also over on Spotify. This has been episode 7 of the Respawning Archives with your host, Patrick Turner, and your co-host, William. And we'll see you next week for episode 8. We're going to talk about my theory on religion, death, and the endless void of the cosmos. I mentioned last 2 episodes ago. We're going to finish that up. Will's going to talk about something personal in his life.
I don't know about that.
I'm sure we'll have something. I don't know if it'll be another cryptic or not. Maybe it will. Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll be on space. I like talking about space. You guys like talking about space? I like my own space, you know?
Makes me think of that Rick and Morty episode. 1, stay out of my personal space. 2, personal space. 3, stay out of my personal space.
Oh, we get a 1, personal space. 2, personal space. 3, stay out of my personal space. 4, keep away from my personal space. 5, get out of that personal space. 6, stay away from my personal space. 7, keep away from that personal space. 8, personal space. 9, personal space.
Anyways, we'll see you next episode on episode 8. This has been episode 7. Any comments, anything you want to say before we cut off like I usually ask? Alrighty, people. Peace. Tra-la-la.